Welcome to The Art of Adventure. This is episode 276 with Robert Waggoner. The Art of Adventure is the podcast where we look at unconventional and adventurous lifestyles, peak performance, human potential, entrepreneurship, and cutting-edge science. I'm your host, lead explorer, and guide, Derek Loudermilk. You can check out derekloudermilk.com for the show notes and links from this episode, and on that website, you can also find more about upcoming book projects, the one on transformation and leadership, workshops and events, and all kinds of great things there. And quick announcement, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you remember the whole process of me writing and publishing Superconductors. That book is now available on audiobook from Audible. So I've heard good things from people listening to that book. Some people have even listened to it 2 times, twice in a row. So there's always a little something more. If you listen through it once and then you try it again later, you'll pick up different things. You're at a different place. It's a book that I wrote specifically as kind of a reference guide, something that you can keep coming back to and get something every time. So now on to today's episode, Robert Waggoner. He's the author of 2 books on lucid dreaming, The Gateway to the Self. And that's one of the first books that I read when I started learning about dreaming and lucid dreaming. So if you don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's when you become aware that you're dreaming within the dream. If you already know what lucid dreaming is, then this interview is going to be a real treat because Robert Waggoner is one of the most experienced, well-known thought leaders in this space. He's been on CNN, CBS, ABC, talking about lucid dreaming, Huffington Post, Popular Science, Iowa Public Radio. For 10 years, he's been co-editing the Lucid Dreaming Experience magazine, and he's been lucid dreaming for over 4 decades since the 70s and has logged more than 1,000 lucid dreams. And he's a popular speaker all over the world, speaking at universities, conferences, and workshops. So he knows what he's talking about. One of the coolest things about this episode is the stories that he tells about his dream experience. I actually share a dream experience that I had that I haven't shared publicly before, which is kind of cool and still makes me feel a little bit spooky. So I think you're really going to enjoy this one. Here is Robert Waggoner. Robert Waggoner, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Derek, thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
I'm really excited. Actually, this morning, I was trying really hard to have a lucid dream because I knew I was going to be talking to you. I didn't exactly, but it was. I woke up from a thunderstorm a little bit early, and I was like, okay, I got to do this. So I've been thinking about this interview, and a good place to start might be because I'm not sure everyone understands what a lucid dream is, and actually, I didn't until a few years ago. So could we just establish what is lucid dreaming?
Yeah, so a lucid dream is any dream in which you realize within the dream that you're dreaming. So a lot of times you might actually stop and say, wait a second, this is too weird. Oh, this has to be a dream. So when you realize it's a dream, then that's a lucid dream. And so just to kind of give people an example, my very first lucid dream when I was a little kid, I was probably like 11 or 12, I was in the public library. I was looking at the books, and all of a sudden I see this little Tyrannosaurus Rex walking through the book stacks. and even as a 12-year-old, I thought, wait a second, dinosaurs are extinct. How can this be? And then I realized, oh, this is a dream. That's the only explanation. And so at that moment, I was lucidly aware. And as soon as you become lucid, you can begin to explore, you can experiment, you can kind of influence and manipulate things if you know how. But that's what a lucid dream is. You realize within the dream you're dreaming.
So I often have, I notice weird things in my dreams, but I feel quite gullible because I believe them all, and it doesn't trigger me to think this is out of the ordinary. If I can fly or something, I'm like, yeah, of course I can fly because I'm awesome.
Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of the problem with dreaming. We just accept whatever happens while it's happening. So we're driving a car, then we're on a motorcycle, then we're on a skateboard. We just accept whatever happens. And so that's part of the problem of dreaming or personal experience like that. We just accept whatever happens as being real. And that's the beautiful thing about lucid dreaming. suddenly you shift and you go, wait a second. Oh, this is a dream. This explains how this all is happening. And once you're aware within that state, then you can begin to explore, influence things, and just do some incredibly profound things if you know how.
And it seems like there's so many layers, and I know you have decades of experience. When I was about to have a kid, someone said you should start writing down your dreams so that you can just have adventures, because you'll be able to you're not going to be traveling as much, or you're not going to have as much time for yourself, so you can just have adventures in your dream. And I was like, okay, cool. So I started a dream journal, and then a little bit later I found out about lucid dreams and had my first one. But before that, I really actually didn't remember that many of my dreams, and I think probably a lot of people don't even remember their dreams.
That's really the case, because one thing that happens is when you're in the dream state and in the sleep state, you're neurologically kind of in a different system. So there's the cholinergic system and the aminergic system. And then when you wake up, you shift to this other system in waking consciousness. And so that's why in that first 30 seconds or so from waking up, you better focus on what was I just dreaming. Because otherwise, when you're shifting to this other system, the memories of your dreams will suddenly start to evaporate. And an hour later, it's hard to recall any of the dreams. So that's what I always tell people in my workshops is you just got to get into the habit of thinking upon waking, what was I just dreaming? And that's the way to kind of capture your dreams and those dream experiences and kind of prepare to become a good lucid dreamer.
Yeah, it's like you have to replay it, and then you can sort of hold it in your memory long enough to write it down if you want to do that.
Yeah, and for me, since I don't want to wake up my wife, I'll just jot down some notes, like angry cat, sinking sailboat, flew away. And then in the morning I can remember, oh yeah, I was out on a sailboat and there's this angry cat. And then you can kind of piece it all back together. So I'll just jot down a couple notes in my dream journal in the darkness and figure it out in the morning.
And so now that I've experienced a lucid dream, it's so exciting. And I've probably only experienced it 4 times in the last couple of years. So just to give the listener a sense, like it's not happening for me that often. I'm curious, actually, how frequently do you have a lucid dream?
This is one of these skills that some people just seem to have a natural talent, and other people have to work at it. I'm going to say the majority of us have to work at it. So if I really don't focus on lucid dreaming very much, I might have 1 or 2 a month. But I remember in college when I had more free time and I kind of configured my class schedule so I could sleep in late and play around with lucid dreaming. But back in those glory days, I actually got up to 30 lucid dreams a month. And part of it was that I focused on it so intently, I could sleep in late. Some nights I'd have 2 or 3 lucid dreams, and on other nights I wouldn't have any. But part of it is training the mind. Part of it's knowing good techniques. And that's one thing that I kind of hate about the internet is sometimes I'll see on the internet that someone's promoting a technique, and I'm thinking, oh my God, that's probably the most difficult technique possible, and they're promoting it as the next big thing in lucid dreaming. And so that's why I've written some books. I just wanted to give people, kind of the condensed version of all my experience over 40 years of lucid dreaming, just to help them as they get on the path of lucid dreaming.
And I'm imagining, not many of your peers in college were lucid dreaming, and it's because it's kind of like a special ability. What effect did that have on you as a person going through your university experience?
It was actually kind of wild. So I taught myself how to lucid dream when I was in high school. So this was back in 1975. I was reading a book by Carlos Castaneda called Journey to Ixtlan. And in this book, his shamanic teacher, Don Juan, told him that he could find his hands in the dream state and become lucidly aware. And there really wasn't a technique. And so I thought, gosh, how could you do that? So I knew about the power of suggestion. So each night before I'd go to sleep, I'd look at the palms of my hands while telling myself over and over, tonight my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. And I'd say that for about 5 minutes until I got too sleepy, then I'd fall asleep. Anyway, on the third night of doing this, I'm walking through my high school hallway. Everything seems real. And suddenly my hands pop right in front of my face. And I think, my hands, oh, this is a dream. And it was so wild to realize that these football players over here, they're actually dream figures. And the wall that I touched, it felt so cool and nubby, just like it should. But I knew it was actually dream stuff. And I went on to just have an amazing lucid dream. So the scientific evidence for lucid dreaming didn't come out until 1981. I was finishing up my bachelor's degree that semester in January of 81, and I read this article in Psychology Today by Stephen LaBerge where he scientifically validated it. But the great thing about, once it was scientifically validated, then I could talk to my friends about it and say, oh yeah, here's the scientific proof and stuff. Before then I'd tell people and they say, oh, you're just having a dream about being awake, and oh, you're just having a dream about being aware. I go, no, I know I'm dreaming. But I think what it showed me is what you see as a lucid dreamer early on is that your beliefs and expectations are really fundamentally important in the experience that you perceive or then experience. So, for example, in a lucid dream, if I believe that I can fly through a wall, and I know it's dream stuff, I believe it's dream stuff, then I can easily fly through. But I've had experiences when I come back to that same wall and I try to fly through it, but now I expect to have trouble because on the other side it looks more brick and concrete, and all of a sudden I find myself stuck halfway through the wall.
Oh, gosh.
You just realize that little bit of doubt, that little bit of fear costs you to have this experience where you're stuck halfway through. And so that's one thing you begin to realize, is that this unconscious or subconscious that we're really not very familiar with, it's intimately connected to our beliefs and expectations. So that's why you have to kind of monitor your thoughts in the lucid dream state. And then if you're going to live more lucidly, you got to kind of monitor your thoughts in the waking state too, to see that your beliefs and expectations and everything are aligned.
And if the beliefs are so powerful in the dream, do you, when you're in the waking state, are you really trying to make sure that the beliefs that you have align with the direction you're trying to head in life? Like, how does that influence the waking beliefs?
So for example, let's say you're going to the boss to ask for a pay raise. You deserve a 20% pay raise. Everybody else in the industry doing this job, whatever. But if you walk into the boss's office and suddenly you don't expect things are going to go well, or you don't believe in your basic argument, then things will probably go bad. Your boss will look at you and say, you've only been here 9 months, whatever, get out of here, kid, come back in a year, and maybe I'll think about a pay raise. And so you realize that when you get into things, you've really got to explore your mind, because sometimes people think a desire is a belief. So, for example, you might desire $1 million, or you might desire winning the lottery. But if you don't believe that you deserve it, don't believe that you can get it, there's no reason to even try. So you got to work on your beliefs and expectations before you get in the game. You got to be sure that your beliefs and expectations support what you're doing. And that's what a lot of people, whether it's in business or whatever they're involved in, they realize that you've got to get your beliefs structured out. You got to see yourself there before you can get there.
And is that kind of like what you did with the hands, just like repeating a thought until it becomes a belief? How do you do that?
In many respects, a belief is a habitual thought. If you tell yourself over and over in your mind, everybody loves me, or girls are silly. If you repeat that stuff over and over in your mind, then it becomes a belief that you hold. And I want to tell you how important this can get, because about 10, 15 years ago, I developed hay fever. So every time August and September would roll around in my part of the country, all of a sudden, I couldn't, at night I could barely sleep. My sinuses were all filled up, and I had what people called hay fever. But then I thought, wait a second, Robert, your beliefs and experience create your reality. And so obviously you have adopted a belief in hay fever. So if you want to stop it, this is what you have to do. So every time I begin to think about hay fever and dreading August and September, I tell myself, no, not this year. This year, I believe that I'll breathe easily and naturally. And so every time I see a TV commercial, pollen counts at their highest, I'd say, no, not this year. This year, I'm going to believe that everything I'll breathe is easy and natural. And what happened, Derek, is that first year of doing this, I experienced probably 60 or 70% relief from all those symptoms. And then the next year, it was like a 90% relief from all those symptoms. And so since that time, I don't even have the symptoms anymore. I'm like 98% free of that belief. And that's why looking at your beliefs and expectations are so important, because sometimes you realize that when you adopt limiting beliefs, when you adopt non-constructive beliefs, when you adopt beliefs in your own limitation or health issues, that then they'll come to fruition. And the only way out of them is to pull out that old belief and insert the new belief that you want to have, which is in your ability and your freedom.
Yeah, that's. Thank you for sharing that story. That's truly remarkable. And I think, I'm just wondering if you try to replace a belief, and you're like, I guess you have to believe that the replacing a belief will work. It's almost like two layers, like, because if you say, well, I'm going to be a millionaire, like, but my bank account doesn't have $1 million, then you're like, whatever, I'm just full of hooey. So you have to.
But when you read the stories of a lot of people who went on to be NBA stars or went on to be movie stars or whatever kind of famous in their field, oftentimes they're people who started out as young kids, and they would imagine themselves on the NBA court. Even though they're growing up, in a tough part of Brooklyn, or they're on a basketball court in Gary, Indiana, they would imagine themselves every day being in the NBA. Or there'd be some young kid growing up in North Dakota, and they imagine themselves as a movie star, and they would just imagine it every day. And that's sometimes the value of visualization, because when you visualize it, it's like a habitual thought. It's like a belief. You can begin to believe it. The more you can visualize it, the more easy it becomes. Oh, yeah, someday I can be in front of the camera. Oh, yeah, someday I could be a famous this, that, or the other. But that's why dreaming shows us how the dream experience is basically your projected mental energy being expressed in the dream. And when you begin to get into lucid living, that's when you realize, oh my gosh, this is what the Buddhists are talking about as well. All this a dream. They don't mean all this as an illusion or fantasy. What they mean is all of this experience is projected mental energy. And so if you want to change your mind, if you change your mind, then you'll change your outer experience. And so that's what we're really learning when we get deep into lucid dreaming. And on the surface, most people have fun, they play around, they learn about lucid dream sex, they have some wild experiences. But there's this whole deeper layer to it where you can use lucid dreaming to access creativity. You can use it for emotional health, for resolving traumas. You can use it for physical health as well. There's a lot of examples of lucid dreamers who have used it to heal their physical body. And then you can also use it to enhance your skills, for spiritual exploration, to kind of understand the true nature of mind. And that's why I think people find lucid dreaming so fascinating.
You just touched on a lot of the topics that I'm really excited about. And we had a guest who runs an ayahuasca retreat center, and she told some stories about seeing people heal themselves in their psychedelic experience. And I've also read of people healing, long-term injuries in the dream state. Do you have any interesting examples that you could share of that?
Oh yeah, there's some incredible examples. Like in my first book, Lucid Dreaming Gateway to the Inner Self, I have an entire chapter on healing, physical healing in the lucid dream state. And so I give about a dozen examples of people who did it successfully. And then I give 2 or 3 examples of people who did not have any success. And I show how their approach led to a lack of success. But for example, there was a guy who read my book, and he had GERD, which is gastroesophageal reflux disease. Mm-hmm. And so he said it was so bad, he'd gone to all the doctors, he'd been taking all this medicine, but his GERD was so bad that he could not sleep laying down. That acid reflux would just kill him if he did that. And so he had to sleep sitting up in kind of a lazy boy. And so he said he read my book, he saw all these examples of people who had healed themselves, and so he decided, why not give it a try? I've already tried the doctor route, and that's not helped out at all. And so one night, he remembered he wanted to heal his GERD, and so he did one thing which is using affirmation. So he said something like, now by the power of grace, heal this space, and he pointed to his torso, his gut, and he said when he woke up, he felt like 20% better or something like that. But he realized he really hadn't done it very well because he hadn't thought out a plan, which is one thing you have to dream if you're going to heal yourself. You really have to have a thoughtful plan developed in order to really use your intention in a powerful manner when you're lucidly aware and trying to heal yourself. So the next time he became lucid, he was in this kind of area, kind of like a bar, and he asked all the dream figures, hey, dream figures, do you have an interest in helping me heal? And they all shook their head yes, and he goes, okay, now's your chance. And he did something where he asked the dream figures to help heal him. He said it was so wild, the dream figures put out their hands, and from their hands, blue light was streaming into his gut. And he said he felt this incredible energy. He woke up, and he said when he woke up, he knew he was healed. And he said, the first night he wasn't sure, so he still slept in the recliner. But on the second night, he realized his GERD was done with, and he went back to sleeping in bed with his wife or significant other. And he said since that time he hasn't had any trouble. So that's kind of just one example of someone who's used lucid dreaming to heal a physical ailment.
Yeah, gosh, that is really amazing. That is so cool. And it's interesting to me that he got other characters in his dream to help him, and that's something that I think you mentioned. No, I'm not sure if you said you were interacting with the football players, but you can start to ask questions of and interact with characters in dreams, and I'm curious, what that's all about.
Well, one thing about lucid dreaming is you begin to realize that all dream figures are not created equal. Because sometimes in a lucid dream, you can go up and ask a random dream figure a question, and they'll just look at you blankly or respond with gibberish. And so you got to realize that all dream figures are not created equal. But there are some dream figures that you really want to pay attention to. And so, for example, people sometimes become lucidly aware when they see a deceased relative or a deceased friend. And they'll think, wait a second, Uncle Bob, he passed away 5 years ago. Oh, this must be a dream. I mean, that's the only thing that explains it. And when you realize that you're seeing a deceased dream figure, you really don't know, well, wait a second, am I seeing a projection of my mind, or am I seeing my friend or relative, in the after-death state? And so, like, one time this happened to me. In the dream, I saw this ladder, and coming down the ladder was my father. And immediately I realized, wait a second, Dad's been dead 3 years now. Oh, this must be a dream. And so I became lucidly aware. But then I wondered, in this rational Western way, is this my father as a projection of my mind, or is this my father as a spiritual being in the after-death state? And so when he got down the ladder and we greeted each other, I thought, okay, I'll ask him some questions. And the first thing I asked him, I said, hey, Dad, you're from the land of the dead. When do you think Mom's going to pass away? And he looked at me and he said, oh, probably in 2 to 6 years. And I said, of what? And he said, a heart condition. And then I asked him one more question, and he answered it. And then he told me to please be quiet because he came to tell me things. And then he started telling me things about the family that he wanted me to realize and things about what might happen in the future that he wanted me to get ready for. And I thought, whoa, this is wild. And when I woke up from that lucid dream, I thought, okay, I'm going to have to wait 2 years to see, if his prediction about my mom was correct. And you know what happened, Derek? About 23 months later, my mom went to the hospital and almost died of a heart condition. She had never had heart trouble before that time. And then about 3 years after that, she had been taking Vioxx, a prescribed medication that was actually harming her heart. And she almost passed away again. But she made it through that 2 to 6 year period. But that's why I'm saying that when it comes to dream figures, if it's a deceased family member or friend, I always pay attention. Or if it's a dream figure that seems to have some sort of awareness in their eyes, when you're kind of walking down the street, you can kind of see people who have a lot of energy because they just seem so aware, and you can kind of see it in their eyes. And that's how it is in the dream state as well. You sometimes meet dream figures who have that same sort of awareness. But when it comes to dream figures, I always encourage people, you should always ask, who are you? What do you represent? Because sometimes when the dream figure tells you what it represents, that can really be a powerful moment.
And your father, did he tell you useful things about your family and your future?
Oh, yeah. He told me some useful things. I think it was like 5 weeks after that lucid dream, my sister's house was hit by a tornado. And what the tornado did, it basically lifted up the roof and then it smashed it back down on the house. So the house didn't explode or implode. But my sister had to deal with 3 or 4 weeks of them dealing with all the damage there. And so he hinted at that, and he also mentioned some other things that were kind of along those lines of things to pay attention to. One thing he did say, and this was really something. So I'm from a big family. There were 5 of us boys, and then my little sister, and I was the youngest boy. But one of my brothers had gotten remarried, and I thought his new wife was kind of a little bit. She was just a little bit strange, and anyway, my father in this lucid dream, he told me this. He said, "Your new sister-in-law, you do not understand her life, so it's not for you to judge her now." And I thought, whoa. When my father told me that, he basically told me that I didn't understand this person, and so I had to let go of my judgments, which were pretty heavy duty at the time. And he basically told me that, I needed to chill when it came to that. So anyway, it's really wild when you have those experiences. I remember being interviewed by a guy once who became a lucid dreamer, and he told me how lucid dreaming had kind of saved his life. He said when he was like 15 or 16, his mom died of cancer. And he said after that, in high school, he'd get into fights and he just didn't pay attention. He's just basically angry at the world.
Yeah.
And then he said that this led to getting a job as a bouncer in a bar, because he said basically he enjoyed beating up drunks at the end who wouldn't leave the bar, at closing time. And he said, he's probably about 20, 21, and one night his mom appeared in a dream, and then he became lucid because he realized his mom had passed away years earlier, and his mom told him that there was something at a friend's house that he should go and get. It was something that the mom had left for him. And he thought, really? And so when he woke up, he called this friend, and the friend said that they didn't know how to get in touch with the kid. And yes, indeed, the mom had left something for him. And so he goes to see the family, and they give him the thing that his mom had left for him. And he said after that, he realized that there's something more going on in life. And he decided, to quit being a bouncer, to quit being so angry, to go to school, to go to college and try to get his head together. And he ended up, I think he actually ended up as an entrepreneur. He ended up starting some tech companies in the Denver area and went on to make a lot of money and stuff. So anyway, all I'm saying is that sometimes in the lucid dream state, you'll get to meet face-to-face with some of the issues in your life. And sometimes if you can resolve these issues at that unconscious level, it can really move you forward in your waking life.
Yeah, that's a really great story. So many good stories. It's so super cool to talk about dreams and sort of ponder them and figure out what they mean. One thing that I think I read in your book was about an experiment with people lucid dreaming at the same time, trying to meet up and verify that they're dreaming. Has that been done?
Yeah, that this is one of these interesting things. People would call it mutual lucid dreaming, and I'll tell you what's most likely to happen is that a lucid dreamer would meet a person who's not lucidly aware. And so I'll give you kind of an example of how that would work out. So like one time I became lucidly aware. I was sitting in a restaurant. I was just admiring the detail. I mean, I could actually see the individual salt crystals in the salt shaker on the table of my lucid dream restaurant. And I'm just thinking, wow, look at the detail here. If you were in Hollywood, you couldn't come up with this incredible level of detail. And at that moment, a friend of mine from California came walking through the door. Her name is Maureen or Mo. And I thought, oh, my God, Mo. And I ran up to her and I said, Mo, this is a lucid dream. Do you know we're dreaming this? And the crazy thing, Derek, she had rapid eye movement. So when you're dreaming, you normally have rapid eye movement. Like if you watch a baby, you'll see its eyes are flickering around. Or if you watch your spouse or loved one sleeping, sometimes you'll see their eyes moving around. They're in the dream state. They have rapid eye movement. And so I thought, I've got to kind of make her lucidly aware. And so I grabbed her around the waist and I started levitating. And I said, see, Mo, we're floating. This is a lucid dream. This is a lucid dream. But her eyes just kept fluttering like people do when they're in a regular dream. And so then I became really frustrated. I couldn't figure out how to make her lucidly aware. So what I did, I put my fingers in a peace sign and I just shoved it right in her face. And I said, Mo, do you see this peace sign? You can use it as a symbol to help you become lucidly aware anytime you want. And then I decided to wake up. So in the morning, I live in the Midwest, and I thought, oh, she'll give me a call or send me an email, but nothing. So I didn't mention it to her, didn't mention it to any of my friends or anything like that. But about 3 months later, I was out in the Bay Area on a business trip, and I realized I had some free time. And so I called up Mo and I said, hey, I have some free time for lunch if you want to meet. And she told me the restaurant in Burlingame where she wanted me to go to. And so I said, okay, great. I'll see you there at 12 noon. So now it's the waking state, and I'm standing outside this restaurant at 12 noon in Burlingame, California. She comes walking right down the street, and before she even says hello, she puts her fingers in a peace sign and shoves it right in my face.
Whoa.
And I said, Mo, why are you doing that? And she said, I don't know why. I just felt like it. And so you can kind of see in these experiences where the lucid dreamer kind of passes on information to the subconscious of the dreaming person, and later they express it. And to some degree, that's kind of the premise of the movie Inception. It's lucid dreamers getting information or knowledge or secret passwords or whatever from people who are in the sleep state.
That is so cool. And if I can, I want to share. I think it may have been my first lucid dream experience, because I've been trying, doing like looking at my hands or just saying I'm gonna have a lucid dream or I'm gonna remember.
Right.
And so in this dream, I realize that I'm lucid, and the first thing I want to do is tell my wife, because I've been telling her that so she appears and I'm like, this is a lucid dream. She's like, that's great, congrats. And then she's like, now go have fun. And I went exploring in this sort of labyrinth, and then this group of people, dream characters, they're like, finally, you're lucid dreaming. We've been waiting for you. And I realized that they were reoccurring dream characters for years.
Oh my God, really?
And they said, come with us. Now that you know how to lucid dream, we're going to induct you into our secret order of lucid dreamers. And they said,
no way.
Yeah. So I want to know. And they said, okay. And hopefully I'm allowed to share this, according to the code of the group. They said, we're part of a secret dreaming society called Shade the Moon. And they gave me a special pendant, and they said, now you're a member, and we meet here regularly. And it was in like a giant barn, and then they like opened the doors to this barn, and there was like a different universe through those doors. It was like snowing outside the barn, and they were like, come on. And that's when I woke up.
Wow. Oh, how wild. Wow. I'll tell you, people have some profound experiences with dream figures, and it sounds like you really had a pretty wild one there, because I remember I was reading a book by a guy, Charlie Morley, and he talked about this lucid dreamer, Antonio, and so Antonio happened to come and hear a talk that Charlie gave, and that night he had a lucid dream. And Antonio said throughout the lucid dream, as he's exploring around, he notices that there's this woman following him. And finally he turns around and he goes, why are you following me? Who are you? And the woman replied, I represent your brain, and I've come here to ask you to stop smoking. It bothers us. And Antonio, the lucid dreamer, said he thought about it, and then he told the woman, he goes, look, every time I try to stop smoking, I have cravings. If you can make the cravings stop, then maybe I can stop smoking. And the woman who represented the brain said, we'll see what we can do. And Antonio, when he woke up, he had no interest in smoking. He said he could hang out with smokers, and he had no interest in smoking. He said it was incredibly profound that after this lucid dream, it's like he didn't even quit. It's just that he had no interest in smoking. He just didn't crave it, didn't care about it, didn't even want to do it any longer. But I think in your experience, meeting a group of dream figures that are recurring dream figures is in some ways even more special, because you recognize that they kind of represent part of your inner unconscious mind.
I was wondering if they were actually just a group of people that all lucid dream together. And I was like, is that possible? Because if there's like people meeting in dream space and they're trying to recruit other people into the dream space, that's sort of what I assumed.
I'll tell you that's how weird lucid dreaming is. I've had people come to my workshops who told me in a lucid dream that a dream figure told them that they should come to my workshop. And in the morning, they woke up and Googled Robert Waggoner Lucid Dream Workshop, and they were stunned to see that I do workshops. I had a woman who wrote me. She was a young woman. She wrote me, the subject line in the email was, "Were you trying to contact me in the dream state?" So I opened up the email, and this woman said that she was like 21 years old. She's from Canada. Her and her boyfriend were down in like Nicaragua or Costa Rica for like 6 months. And last night I appeared in her lucid dream. I told her my name when she asked my name. I said, "I'm Robert Waggoner." And I sat there and talked to her about lucid dreaming. And she was thinking like, boy, this is really weird. This is really a strange lucid dream to have this dream figure who wants to talk to me about lucid dreaming. And then she wakes up and she decides to Google search Robert Waggoner. And she said she had no idea that I had ever written any books, had never ever heard of me, and the whole thing. So it is kind of weird when you have these situations, like you have, where you meet dream figures and they tell you that you're kind of basically one of them and that you should be part of their lucid dreaming society. So really, Derek, I think this sounds quite auspicious, and hopefully you can call forward these guys again. And
I'll keep you posted. I would like to re-encounter them just to see what happens.
You know what? One thing I have to tell you though is, so I go all around the world, give talks and workshops, and do all that kind of thing. But sometimes people tell me, "Oh, I was a great lucid dreamer, for 3 or 4 years, but for the last, 9 months, I haven't had a lucid dream. What's going on?" And oftentimes I'll ask him, "Okay, what happened 9 months ago? Did you change a job? Did you get divorced? Has your life changed a lot?" And a lot of times they'll say no. And then I'll ask them, "Okay, tell me about your last lucid dream 9 months ago. Was there something in there that scared you? Or did some dream figure challenge you or something like that?" And a lot of times when they go back, they'll go, "Oh my God, you're right. I had this lucid dreams and these dream figures, challenged me to do something or to grow up or explore something. And I was too afraid." And so oftentimes what happens is people get into lucid dreaming and then they have a powerful lucid dream that kind of scares their ego, and once the ego is afraid, it'll just avoid it. So that's why if you realize your last lucid dream, you haven't had a lucid dream since then, see if there is some issue in there that frightened the ego, and now your ego is kind of impeding your lucid dream progress.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I actually believe it's more related. I have 2 young kids, and they generally wake me up demanding immediate attention. And so as much as I'm like, wait, I want to try to replay a dream or something, they're squawking. So I imagine that it's more circumstantial, like when you're in college.
Right.
So, but I think if I sort of refocus on it, it may happen more frequently.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too. Before you go to sleep, if you use the power of suggestion, that's how people when lucid dreaming first came out in the 80s and 90s, most lucid dreams occurred just by the power of suggestion. Like, tonight in my dreams, I'll be more critically aware. When I see something strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. But you could do a suggestion like, tonight in my dreams, I'll be more aware of my dream figures. And when I see someone from Shade the Moon, I'll realize I'm dreaming. So it's basically like you're calling on these dream figures to come back and help you become lucidly aware.
I like that. I will try that.
Yeah. I want to say that one time I was in a dream, and there was this group of people around me, and a guy had a guitar, and he kept playing the same stupid song over and over. And about the third or fourth time he started to play this stupid song again, I thought, wait a second, this is too weird. No one would do this. No one would be that stupid. Oh, this must be a dream. And as soon as I became lucid, the whole group began to laugh and applaud. And they said, finally, you became aware. And then I realized these same dream figures had appeared the night before to try to make me become lucidly aware. And I blew them off. And I realized they came back again to help me become lucid. It truly shows you how wild, how unexplored the unconscious mind is. It's truly incredible.
And I'm curious about, as you've come to accept all these wild things, like where is your current limit of what you believe is possible, or where are you still like, I'm not so sure about that?
I've been lucid dreaming for more than 40 years. So I taught myself how to do it in 1975. The scientific evidence came out in 81. I'd say my first big step was 1985. I was part of a Lucid Dream Explorers group, and every month we had a goal to achieve. And this went on for 3 years. So this really taught me a lot about how to experiment and explore in the lucid dream state. But in the spring of 85, one month our goal was find out what the dream figures represent when you become lucidly aware. And so I was off on a business trip. I was in Chicago. I fell asleep that night, remembering that I had to do the lucid dream goal. I became lucidly aware. I followed a woman into an office space, and there were 4 people. And I went up to this man and I asked him, "Excuse me, what do you represent?" And the weird thing, Derek, is instead of the dream figure responding, which is what would normally happen, a voice boomed out a response from above the guy. And when I woke up from that lucid dream, I thought, where did that voice come from? That is just too weird. And so after that, I began to wonder, is there an awareness behind the dream? Is there kind of, behind all those dream figures and setting and environment, is there an awareness? And so after that, I began in my lucid dreams to ignore the dream figures and just shout out questions to the awareness behind the dream, like, "Hey, dream, show me something important for me to see." And then suddenly the entire lucid dream would change, or some new element would appear. And I began to explore this awareness behind the dream, like, how deep was its knowing? How profound was it? And I have to tell you that's why I call my first book Lucid Dreaming Gateway to the Inner Self, is that you begin to see that this awareness behind the dream understood you at a profound level and basically had kind of a broader perspective of your kind of ego experience. It was kind of something beyond. So I'd asked to experience concepts. I would just do all sorts of wild stuff and go much deeper. So sometimes, of course, you can get into concepts that are really powerful. Like one time I announced, "Hey, dream, let me experience the energy of the universe." And when I asked that, suddenly the dream opened up, and it was just like a fire hydrant of white light came streaming into my body. And it was so powerful. It really reminded me of like a fire hydrant, just the gushing of energy just coming into me. And after about a minute, I couldn't take it anymore. And so I put up my hands and I go, "Stop, cancel." And it suddenly stopped. But after that, I had so much energy in the palm of my hands, in my forehead, in my chest. It was really weird. After that, when I would hold my iPhone, I had to hold it like 3 or 4 inches away from the palm of my hand because the energy off of the iPhone I could feel it in the palm of my hands. That's how hot it was. But anyway, so again, just to kind of get through this, I apologize. In 1985, I realized that there's an awareness behind the dream. And so I explored that. Then I realized that there were reality-creating principles in the lucid dream, that not only was I manipulating my beliefs and expectations, my focus, my intent, if I could manipulate all of those, I could change the dream experience, but also that there's this larger awareness, this inner self, basically, that I could use to change the experience. And then I began to wonder, what's beyond lucid dreaming? you know. So I can manipulate my mind and manipulate the lucid dream, and that's how a regular dream works as well. It's your projected mental stuff being projected out there for you to relate to it. And then I also realized that in the waking state, you know, if I changed my beliefs about something, I could change my experience. So in many respects, the waking state was an expression of my mindset, my mental view. And I began to wonder, well, what's beyond lucid dreaming? What's the reality of this inner awareness that responds to my request? And so what happened then is I'd fall asleep at night, and the entire night there'd be nothing but blue light. And the first time this happened, I woke up and I thought, what do I put in my dream journal? Blue light? I mean, there's, you know, there was no me, no plot, no action, no symbolism. It's just blue light the entire night. And so, you know, intermittently, I'd have these blue light nights. And I remember on one of them, went down to the breakfast table, and my wife asked me, she goes, Robert, what's happening to you? And I said, well, why did you ask me that? She said, last night I woke up and saw your face, and I've never seen anyone in such incredible bliss before. What's happening to you? And I said, well, I'm trying to understand the actual nature of reality, and I'm having some wild experiences. And it began with these blue light experiences. And then I talk about this a bit in my book, my first book. Some other wild experiences happened, and then finally, this experience happened that I believe people would call a non-dual experience. So basically, imagine yourself as light, as awareness.
Okay. And
you're in this field of awareness, of light. And so there's no me, you, because you're light and everything is light. It's a non-dual experience. It's you're aware within awareness. And suddenly that came to an end, and I was standing basically in a lucid dream next to a guy in a robe. And I asked him, what was that? Was that a lucid dream? And he said, oh no, to enter a lucid dream, go here. And so I stepped into the space that he indicated, and suddenly I'm falling through this tunnel of light, and I pop into a lucid dream at the end of it. But when I woke up that morning, I thought, what was that first experience? You know, that aware light in a field of light. And it was about 3 years later, I was at a dream conference, and I heard this guy, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, speak about his new book, The Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep. And he said that in Tibetan Buddhism, they have this dream yoga path. And he said the ultimate goal of dream yoga was the awareness of the clear light by awareness itself. And I thought, son of a gun, I basically bushwhacked my way to the ultimate goal of dream yoga, but I just did it in my own crazy way of exploring my mind deeper and deeper and deeper. And it was truly a profound moment. And so since that time, there's even more stuff that's happened. Someday I'll write a third book about it. But again, I do want to say that lucid dreaming will show you that we exist in an interconnected oneness, that there's a lot more going on here than just the surface. And you really can't understand even the context of the surface of the ego until you begin to get some appreciation for the unconscious, for this giant foundation on which all of this exists. And so that's why I think lucid dreaming is truly a profound pathway.
That is, yeah, your stories have been super wonderful. And, I'm just thinking, like, so many people would love to check off, becoming enlightened off their bucket list. So, wow, I'm talking to someone who.
Well, it's really one of these things that you realize that. So here's what I want to say. It's that the first lesson of dream yoga So these people go to dream yoga monasteries for 3 years, and they're taught by dream yoga monks. And even this Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, he started out as a teenager going to the dream yoga monastery. And he said some of the classes were taught in the lucid dream state. And if some of the classmates weren't lucid enough in the lucid dream class, that in the morning, the other kids would throw pebbles at him and laugh at him because they weren't lucidly aware in the lucid dream class. I mean, that's how profound, this dream yoga 3-year course is. But when my first book came out, I got an email from an abbot, a Buddhist abbot at a big Buddhist temple in Europe. And he wrote me and he said, I went to a 3-year dream yoga monastery for 3 years. Reading your book finally explained to me what the monks were trying to teach me in all of those 3 years. He said, your first book gets across the ideas and the principles in a way that I could finally understand it. He said it was, even though I don't talk about dream yoga in my first book, at least very much, it gave him the insights. And he said it just truly blew his mind that someone who wasn't a Buddhist could explain all these Buddhist concepts in a way that everyone could understand them. And so that's how wild all this stuff is. But in my first book, when I sent it to my editor publisher, I had a chapter on there in lucid dreams, and it was a chapter that didn't appear in the final book because she said the book was getting too long. But it was a chapter on interacting with past life selves in the lucid dream state.
Oh, cool.
Because I did that for about a 9-month period and was just blown away by the results. But anyway, lucid dreaming, I mean, that's how deep it is. You can access creativity. People have come up with, solutions to problems, new artwork, new painting, new music, new songs, all sorts of things, but by using the power of accessing their creativity in lucid dreams. But if you want to use it as a spiritual path, it's a profound way to explore the inner universe.
Yeah, it sounds like so much to explore, so much potential. I want to give you the opportunity. I know we're about at the end of our time here. So if there's anything that you haven't said that you think is important to know, feel free to add that. Or if you just want to tell people where to find you.
Yeah, one thing that I did want to get across to folks is one problem that a lot of beginners have as lucid dreamers is they become too excited as soon as they become lucidly aware. And so if you're going to have a long lucid dream, you don't get too excited. Tell yourself to calm down, look at your hands, look at the floor, reduce your level of emotion, and that'll help you get in the lucid dream, stabilize the lucid dream. Then the next thing, you ought to enhance your awareness. So you can rub your hands together, you can touch something to kind of ground you in that lucid dream, but that'll kind of make you feel more aware and more solid in that lucid dream state. And then the final thing that beginners have to understand is you got to maintain your focus. So if you're a beginner in lucid dreaming, every 15 or 20 seconds, remind yourself, this is a dream, I'm dreaming this. Because like we talked about earlier, it seems so real that then you can lose your realization that it's a dream and think that you're back in waking reality when you're not. So again, you got to reduce your emotions, enhance your awareness, maintain your focus, and that's the way you can have a long lucid dream. But I always encourage everyone to check out my website. It's at lucidadvice.com. I go around the nation, around the world, give talks. I do an online workshop with Glidewing. I'll be doing one. Normally I do one in the spring and the fall. So I think I'm doing one, starts the end of October 2019. But Derek, it's been a lot of fun chatting with you about the crazy world of lucid dreaming.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. Thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing your experience and stories. It's really a pleasure.
Oh, great. And lucid wishes to everyone listening. Hope you have a lucid dream tonight and get your mind blown.
Yeah. Wow, amazing stuff. If you are not a lucid dreamer yet, hopefully this inspires you to check it out. Check out his books. The techniques in there are the ones that I use to have my lucid dreams. Even if you never get to lucid dreaming, being aware of what's happening in your dream is really helpful. I've used it in writing books for creativity, for solving problems, for understanding, what my next move should be in business. A lot of really good things in the subconscious, the dream world. But if you can lucid dream, if you can get there, it is so amazing. And he talked about how exciting it is and how that's the major problem is because once you realize you're dreaming, it's, oh my God, I can do anything. And then you want to go fly around or have sex or whatever it is that you really want to do. And if I have more lucid dreams, then I will keep you guys informed. I will share some of my dream stories if they're particularly interesting. If you guys would find that helpful, because I really love hearing people's dream stories. So thank you so much for listening to the entire interview. If you're the type of person that likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family. If you found value, then they will too. So please share it out on your social media channels. If you have questions, I'm here to help. You can send me an email, derek@derekloudermilk.com, questions about episodes, or if you're curious about working together, if you're an entrepreneur or an unconventional thinker and you want to learn more about how all these different pieces fit together, making your business and lifestyle work, then you can also send me an email and we can start a conversation about what it would be like to work together. I do have a quick personal request. I believe we're all here to help each other together, you and me. So let's help more people. And so if you would please leave a review on iTunes. And this actually helps boost the show up in the rankings and gets the information out to more people. And that is all for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Now it's your turn to go out there and be adventurous.